guys, we're back with episode 2 of Doc Talk, and I'm here accompanied by 4 of the best clinicians on this side of heaven. We have going across Dr. Jason Lester out of Aurora, Colorado. We got Major Dr. Michell Greenidge out of Tampa, Florida. We have Dr. Regina Parnell out of St. Louis, Missouri. And we got that hard-working woman, Dr. Crystal DeBerry, coming at you from Memphis, Tennessee. Jamaal out of Houston, Texas. Today we're going to be having a very interesting discussion around religion, mental health, and the African American community. We want to talk about some ways they intersect, some good, some bad, and hopefully we can get a handle on this, maybe help somebody who's having some questions maybe around faith, or can your faith be reconciled with your mental health care? So, I just kind of want to just dive right on in. Have you guys had experiences where you've either witnessed or worked with clients who have had issues where they felt that their religion was conflicting with their mental health care?
Yep. I actually, the first client of mine that came to mind is a young African-American male who came to us. He was deployed and he returned early from his deployment, and he kept saying, I have a lot of anxiety. No issues. Great in the Air Force. Everybody loved him, but he was really, really struggling. It took some time to come to a point where we realized he had bipolar disorder. So not anxiety, okay? And he had a really tough time grappling with that. He grew up in a very religious home in the South. His dad is a preacher. But his parents, throughout his life, he noticed some things that seemed odd growing up and everything. So he kind of was somewhat of a recluse, and he joined the military to kind of get away from that. But because that's what he knew, he would just pray. When he would go to his family and say, hey, this seems odd, this is what's going on, they would say, you need to pray. And even after he joined the military and he started to have that slow climb of symptoms that he experienced, he would talk to his dad, who he described as his best friend. And his dad, pray, son, pray. And when he finally said, I need to go get some help, his dad and his mom said, absolutely not. You don't. You take yourself to church. And bottom line was he decided, I have to do something because praying isn't helping. And it actually ended up causing an issue between him and his parents, because he felt like he couldn't come to get help. And then when he did, he felt like he was doing something wrong. And then he felt now he had this big old secret. Number one, he's got to figure out what's really going on with him that the praying is not helping with. And then also at the same time, he's losing a huge support system that he had. And he's away from home because he's in the military in a whole other country. And so that took a lot of time for him to, number one, for me to be able to gain trust with him. And then for him to trust himself and enough to deal with whatever consequence it was going to be, to talk to his parents and say, hey, I need you to take this seriously, because I am praying. I will continue to pray, but I also need to take this medication because this is really, really bad. And he eventually was able to do that, but I will say it took almost a year for him to be able to get enough nerve to, number one, talk to his family, and then for them to get on board, because you can't stay in the military with that type of diagnosis. And the good thing about this was that he was 23 years old, young enough to catch it before it got out of control. Mm-hmm. And he needed his support system because he was going home. He had the military has a program. If you get a diagnosis before you're out of the military, you do get benefits going out the door. So that was a great thing. And he got a good benefit package going out the door. So no problem financially. It was, I have to go home and stay with the family that really, I could have gotten help a long time ago. So that was one of those situations where I had to be comfortable enough with him as well to say, hey, it's okay to continue to pray, but here are these skills to help you to manage those symptoms. And then, oh, by the way, we got to talk about medication.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother layer.
Yeah, and I think it stems from, you have to go back generations of how and why we as as a race depend on the church.
Yeah.
At some point in time, all we had was the church. We had no other outside entities. So we had to pray and believe in what was in our heart and what was in our values, that things will overcome and be successful. And you will become successful. So that is so ingrained in us and in us as a people, that now that we have the resources and the ways to get the services, that we don't reach out to anything else, because the church has always been there for us. It's never wavered with us in the Black community.
But it's interesting to me, though, and that we all know, what is it? Without works is dead, right?
Without works is dead.
Thank you. I'm gonna go back to church when COVID is over, okay? I still miss those sermons. Look, I still miss the sermons from the couch. But anyway, my thing is, if we know that scripture, because that's a very well-known verse, right? Why would we not reach out for help? Why would we not go out and learn those tools to help us navigate these symptoms that we're having? That's just like if I'm going to my pastor and I say, you know what, Pastor, I'm really having a hard time staying out of Macy's. And he tell me, oh, just pray about it. That's not going to work for me. And what we know as mental health professionals is that anytime we're dealing with some type of addiction, we have to replace that with another behavior. At this point now, we need to incorporate the whole stages of change theory, right? Of, okay, I know it's a problem now. Now, what are the action steps that I need to take to now maintain this desired behavior of me not going to Macy's and spending bill money, right? And so it bothers me because I have come across those clients and even asking about grounding techniques. Oh, is this against Christianity? No, baby, nothing in here is about religion. It's to calm down because you're experiencing anxiety, which you are now causing your body to feel like a threat is present. When we know sometimes with anxiety, like symptoms, it's false fear. Yeah. Because what's the immediate danger right now? But if we don't go to a clinician or a therapist to understand about anxiety, to understand the cyclical nature of schizophrenia or bipolar or depressed moods, because I don't know too many pastors that know about mental health. Now, if you give me someone who can preach the word and then talk to me about Erickson, Piaget, Vygotsky, Kohlberg, and Freud, okay, then we're working with something. But if you cannot tell me about these theories and tell me about how the brain works, the id, ego, and superego, you can't come to me with all these scriptures. And I am all the way Christian. But it is a separation between mental health and spirituality. And nothing about mental health goes against religion that I know of, that I have studied.
But we have to teach our people trust.
Yeah.
They have to, and I'm a professional. If I have to seek out services, I'm seeking out services of someone that look like me. Yes. That I know my background. So we have to be visible in our communities and do that non-traditional services with them. I have people calling me all the time, Miss Regina, can you? And so that's that non-traditional, even though we're not in an actual clinical setting, I'm providing that support to them from a clinician point of view. Telling them, no, babe, you need to do A, B, C. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Have you tried A, B, C? What's your plan of action? Like you said, I'm having anxiety. They don't know what anxiety really is. They don't know what that bipolar is. I have an uncle. I love him to death. And y'all might have heard me talk about him before. He's schizophrenic. And I have family members going back and forth with him about his train of thought. And they'll call me, you need to call your favorite uncle because he said so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. I said, well, it sounded to me that he's right. Because why would you argue with someone that's not in their right mind? Exactly. You know he's having these mental thoughts. Don't try to persuade him into your thinking. Lead him in a direction so he can know it. Don't put it on him because he's not going to accept it. It's a way you have to interact with people. So you're right. You can't pray it away. We just have to figure out ways as Black clinicians how to provide that support and service to our community.
I think
Yes,
one
ma'am.
point in life where I think that, we need TD Jakes and we need Dr. Phil. And we have to have, these two dynamics in order to navigate and to be able to make it. I mean, I'll be real with you. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. That's me. I was knocking on your door trying to get you to the Watchtower in the Awake. And
I have some in my family.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, we had this very we were segregated from the world. We didn't vote. We didn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. We didn't celebrate any your birthday. It was just another day. And also bringing in mental health support was not a norm. And it was believed to be, from my vantage point, that we had to basically cling to our faith and believe that things could change suddenly, is what they say. Things change suddenly. And unfortunately, things never change suddenly for my family. And unfortunately, the problems continue to get more compounded and compounded and compounded and compounded until somebody, my sister, said, enough with this. I can't do this. Just because I had premarital sex doesn't make me a harlot. And just because I have these sex urges as a young man doesn't make me weird. I'm a human and I'm dealing with things. My sister had, I can't talk, that's HIPAA, but we all have our things that we have to deal with. And I guess the last thing I want to say is that the pastors of the Black church are needed today. I don't want to in any way, form say that they're not needed today, but they're needed in a way that they have to do their job, and it shouldn't be about how much tithes and offerings came in last Sunday and all of this. It needs to be, what are you doing for your community to get them to understand that they have to cater to their brain health, as we say at USC, your brain health. And until we are able to get people to truly look at what role they play in going to that mental health center and sitting down, then we really are fighting from behind.
Yeah, yes, I agree. And I think another big thing, as we've all mentioned, in terms of it's the pastors and the church leadership, they play such a huge part. As Crystal pointed out, I mean, I grew up in a small South Louisiana town. I'm a Southerner through and through. But in my town, the honest to goodness truth is either you were Baptist, Catholic, or Methodist. And if you weren't one of those three, you were probably a witch and you needed to be saved. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this is what it is. And then at the same time, again, small town. So you're having people coming up like, oh, well, I was called to do this. And it's kind of like, okay, but what is your educational background? Did you finish high school? I mean, can you pass the entrance examination in the kindergarten? Because the issue becomes, what happens when you as a pastor are called on to counsel members and they come to you with problems that if a clinician saw it, they could readily go, okay, maybe this person may need some medication, or maybe they just need to talk to process. But pastor says, well, come on, we're going to pray about this. No. Prayer is wonderful and prayer is good. I'm a fan of prayer, yay prayer. But there's a time for prayer and there's a time for other work that needs to be done. And I'm really grateful, now here in Houston, I go to the Church Without Walls. My pastor and his wife are very, very good about understanding mental health issues and the level of care that is needed for those. My pastor has a doctorate and he's a professor, and that's wonderful, but he understands what he knows is theology. So he's not going to try and be a therapist in the sense of a hardcore mental health therapist, because that's not what he does. Yeah. So he understands, hey, just like Jesus had Luke with him, I'm going to get some people with me who can help you in this area where you need help.
There you go.
So, and I think that's what a lot more pastors need to understand. It's like, it's okay to say you don't have an answer. It's okay to say, let me send you to somebody with the answer.
And that's what I love about my pastor and first lady. I still belong to the church in the Champaign, Illinois area. And that's one of the things that my pastor, if he doesn't know the answer, he's going to send you to someone else. Sometimes that clinician is me, but he'll say, hey, I have somebody, can you talk to them? Can you connect them to the right services? It's okay not to know everything. Us as social workers, as clinicians, we don't know anything and everything. You know, I reach out to some of you. Hey, what do you think about AYZ to get a better understanding for myself? So I can help someone else. So being okay and being open to helping someone else by reaching out to other services. Because like Dr. Jason said, the Black church is needed. We need that sense of hope, that sense of healness, that sense of security within a church, regardless if you're Catholic, Baptist, Methodist, Jehovah's Witness, it's needed. But also what is needed is mental health care. We have to have it within our community. We can no longer say, oh, that's just so-and-so. You know how he is. No, so-and-so is having a mental health issue, and we need to get so-and-so some help.
Correct. Dr. Parnell, I like how you said earlier in that we need to instill trust. And that is a real big factor. And trust from what angle? I love the fact that in the social work profession, we're just knowledgeable in a lot of different facets of life. For example, we can tell you about your diagnosis. We can tell you how to fix and manage your symptoms. We can even tell you about medications, even though we may not be able to prescribe, we can still help you. For example, if I have a client who comes to me and say, hey, I have recently just started an antidepressant, I know what symptoms to tell my client to be watchful of, right? We're knowledgeable of resources, trust. Because sometimes, especially when you're talking about the Black community, because there is a difference between white mental health and Black mental health. I'm going to say it. Yeah. I worked on a psych ward. I observed some people come in and, why are you depressed? Oh, I just don't know. But then I have my other client over here who has dementia induced by AIDS. Just recently had her children taken away from her because it's those aggressive symptoms that she's having. And at that moment, was it mental health or was it resources that she needed? And it was more so resources. And so when you talk about trust, I love my social work profession because I'm able to do that and understand that my role is just not behind the desk. And it is also my duty for me. I can't speak for any other clinicians, but if I'm saying I'm in this profession to help my people, and I know a lot of my people are on Medicare and Medicaid, I take that too. Yeah. Trust. And who else said something about making a presence to be known and out there? Most definitely go hand in hand.
Yeah. And I'll add to that.
Go ahead, Doc.
Well, thank you. I'll add to that too. It's so important for like that first person that you see. And I think you bring up a good point, Dr. DeBerry, that not everybody is the same when it comes to our different backgrounds. So me as an African-American clinician, my approach is probably going to be different than a white person, right, who is a social worker. And so I'll give you a prime example. I am one of those people, and I will be completely transparent about this. Every single person that walks in the door, if they Black, I'm like, you need to see a therapist? It's me. And I'll give you a reason why. Number one, because if they don't have that cultural competence, you will lose them. And they will go back to what they know. And what is it that we know? We know church, right? We know family. And that's what we stick to. And nothing wrong with that as a support system. But we need that mental health care. And so what I found is that a lot of times, as a matter of fact, coming to this new base, I come in the door and they say, well, Major Greenidge, we're going to give you this one patient because she's off the chain, but she's Black. And we think that because you're the first Black person in this clinic, you might be able to help her. And at first I was a little irritated. Why? Why couldn't you help her? You're a psychologist. Why couldn't you help her? But I said, I'm going to take her. I'm going to take her on. And I started seeing her. And it was just her approach. She was loud. I'm from Jacksonville. I said, girl, I didn't even hear that until I joined the military. Okay. So, so calm down. You know what I mean? It was like bringing myself to a point where she could hear me and let her know that it was just simply, that's fine that you're from Jacksonville, Florida. Now, what is going on with you? Why are you here to see me? Now that I know you're from Jacksonville, Florida, and it was just that commonality. She saw that I could relate to her, and therefore she could relate to me. But with the other person that she was seeing, she was just getting textbooks straight out the door, and she lost her. So she just continued to act out. You see what I'm saying? And got nowhere. So having that, I mean, I think it's something that needs to be addressed, of course, and that needs to change because you should be able to see everybody.
Right.
But I'm glad that there's more of African American clinicians out there to get those people that finally came to get some help, and not just church, not just family, but actually help for the mental illness that's going on.
You know, one of the things, you know, you make a great point is just the understanding and the recognition of the person. Oftentimes, I feel like people look to religion over mental health, even when they know that they may need mental health. They look to religion because they feel seen, they feel heard. I can remember several different patients actually being in inpatient psych where they have warrants out because they won't take medication. But no one's ever taken the time to find out why are they so adamant about not taking this medication. You're ready to write them off as, oh, they must be psychotic. Oh, they're delusional. They're non-compliant. They're habitual. They're non-compliant. So we're going to go to the judge and let the judge make them take the meds. And then when you sit with them and you say, why don't you want to take this? They'll have a reason that is so sound, that is so... it's like it may be partly faith-based, partly logic-based. One lady told me, listen, I just believe that if God wanted me dead, I would already be dead. I haven't taken this medication in this long. If I ain't taken it in this long and I'm still here, God don't care about me taking this medicine. But when we went a little further, she said, my husband took the same medicine and he died within 6 months. Okay, let's pause right there. Have you mentioned that to anybody? And it's like, well, nobody asked. And it's that idea of, I need somebody who's going to see me. I need somebody who's willing to stay with me in my religious beliefs. Because the fact of the matter is, as clinicians, it's not our job to debate what you believe to be true. Our job is to figure out, how do I use what you believe as another coping mechanism to help you get better? Like, we're not here to fight you on this. I'm not here to fight you and tell you to stop praying. No, baby. If praying is what keeps you calm and keeps you from popping off, pray. I want you to pray. Please pray. Pray for all our sakes. But what I don't want you to do is resort to prayer and only pray in this silo because you feel like no one is willing to hear me and hear what my wants and what my needs and what my beliefs are. And I feel like when we're talking about religion and mental health, they have to go hand in hand. We as clinicians can't negate what their faith base is, but at the same time, we want to ask religious leaders and faith-based leaders, hey, call us in. We're willing to have those talks with your congregation. We're willing to sit with you one-on-one and talk about what the issues are, because we realize that our people need both parts. This is not a unilateral thing. We want to help. Like, we're not here to overtake you, because I mean, it's been a while for me. I can't even quote all the books of the Bible start to finish anymore. That one time, when I was on vacation Bible school every summer, I had it.
Sunday school.
I had it. I really did at one point in my life. But, as I've gotten older, I still study faith and religion, but I don't do it in the way that maybe I was brought up to.
Mm-hmm. And you know what I include in my treatment plan as well? I ask, what spiritual mechanisms do you utilize to get you through the day? I ask that because at that point, it really, it doesn't matter what you claim to be, right? Or what you claim to worship. At this point, what do you utilize as far as just the strength base of whatever or whoever you worship? And that's normally an entire session. And then people will actually go into the detail of, you know what, and I know I need to do this better. And I know I need to pray more. And I know I need to do this more. And nothing is wrong with that. I include that on their treatment plan. You know, one thing before, I have been praying way more than I ever have because of COVID. And I'm talking about, I'm praying for all y'all seniors too. I done took him as my own. Lord God, please take COVID away. I am sorry for me and all my brothers and sisters down here, Lord. Please forgive us of all our sins, because I can't take this virtual learning. These babies got to go back to school right now. Yeah. We fell in the 10th, 8th, and the 2nd grade at the same time. I don't get this new way of teaching. We need religion. We need mental health. We need all of it. It just has to come to this space where we know how to incorporate it to where people, you know, just it's this balance. We can utilize both. Let's utilize both.
Now, I want to say this. On the other side of the coin, I have seen where mental health services has created some problems because they would share some things with the court system or share some things with other systems that creates barriers for individuals that are going and getting the services. So then this individual develops a type of stigma. And they say, well, you know, I don't know if I can talk to Kathy this week, but I sure can talk to Bishop Fortner here, because he'll hear what I got to say and he'll understand where I'm coming from and he won't judge me. I think that the church the church has a unique opportunity, because if the church can practice principles that develop partnerships with local mental health agencies and with people that like us that really want to see people be their absolute best, I think that the church will come out again ahead, because not only will the church be able to address the spiritual needs, but they'll also be able to address the brain health needs.
Absolutely. Most definitely.
That's a good point.
Definitely. I think, you know, one huge takeaway is simply, you know, for the pastors who may be listening and for the clinicians who may be listening, one, understand that what you do works in partnership. We're all trying to get to the same goal. You trying to get them to heaven. I'm just trying to make sure they have a little heaven on earth before they get there. You know, on top of that, the next thing is, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is education on both sides. Help us to understand, because there's some faith bases that I don't really understand. I've had patients who've come in who've been everything from Wiccan to Confucianist to Taoist, Buddhist, and I don't understand them all. Oftentimes I'll ask questions like, help me to understand how you might use this to help yourself remain calm or regulated. But it's not for me to judge. That's
correct.
And for a lot of clinicians, that's a big thing, because, you know, far and wide, a lot of clinicians tend to be Christian, or they may not have a faith base at all. And so when you're dealing with that, remember, I'm not here to impart my faith beliefs on you. I'm Christian. God is my thing. But if you come in here and tell me you're Wiccan or you're some type of spiritualist or whatever it is, I'm going to respect that. I may not understand it. I may not personally agree with it, but I'm going to respect your right to it and your right to self-determination. And I think that's a huge thing for us as clinicians to always be mindful of. Don't deride or diminish this person's spirituality because you don't understand what this got them through. You know, I had a patient who was Wiccan, and I remember I was like, I don't understand. Let me look it up real quick. Let me just do some quick side research. And I was like, oh, okay, so, they're a witch, which then made sense because I was working with an adolescent who kept telling me his grandma was a witch. And I was like, at first I thought he was insulting me, but then he was like, no, that's G, we were real tight, whatever. And I'm like, well, why are you calling this woman a witch? I don't understand. And so it took a minute for me to realize he meant she practices Santeria. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I think at the end of our sessions, she even gave me some sage that she blessed or whatever. And I was like so grateful for that. But at the same time, at that moment, I'm like, well, I don't really believe in this, but hey, look, if it's something good, I'll take it. Look, if you got a talisman, a medal that I need to wear, some sage to burn, a candle to light, whatever, give it all to me. I'll take it all. I need any good thing on my side that I can possibly have in this day and age, okay? Whatever it is, I'll take it.
Something that social workers, as clinicians, we have to have that attitude. We have to be open to all different walks of life, because that's a part of who we are. We are a helper, not a hinder. So unless you are open and can remain open, it's not going to be helpful if you're a social worker.
Yes, on top of that, we're servants. We are servants of the community.
Mm-hmm.
You're walking into knowing that we're servants. Like, how can we help you?
Yeah. Leave all our values at the door when we're working with others. No judgment, no blaming, no nitpicking. Listen to who that person is. That's the only way we can help them. We have to put ourselves in their shoes and take our shoes off and walk in theirs.
And according to Dr. Lester, I'm a bishop on top of all of that.
Come on, Bishop Fortner.
You know, I mean,
Preach,
I'm going to the Most High. I'm working hard for these people. You don't understand. Like, this is a lot. I got a lot to live up to these days.
Yeah, I'm going to see my love offering via cat.
You know, please. I mean, I would be like Reverend Ike. I'm blessing Cadillacs only these days.
I got to say this, man. I think that the platform that we are working on now, we're recording right now, I get the feeling, and down somewhere down here, that there's going to be a viewer that really is having just this internal battle, this civil war inside of themselves, because they were raised to cling to the Bible, hold the Bible close to your heart, and seek Jesus for the answers that you need. And when they come across this today, this recording, they are going to say, "Wow, what I appreciate about what I've heard from this cohort is you all have made it okay for people to get some help, get some assistance, and not put all of that weight on the pastors." The pastor, somebody said, I think it was Dr. DeBerry, the pastor has a degree in theology, and they're able to, preach. But, I think that sometimes these pastors go through so much stress because they have to be your therapist, your relationship counselor, your pastor, your person that teaches you how to drive, and they have to do all these different things. And, I think it's unfair. So also what I want to do is echo what Dr. DeBerry said was, as a clinician, as a social worker, the ultimate goal is we are of service, and we want to see you, the viewer, be the absolute best that you can be. And you should do that by any means necessary.
I agree. Awesome.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up this week? I don't want to leave nobody out because there might be some good stuff in there, something going to bless somebody's soul. I don't want to leave that out. So
I just want to say that I think it's okay. I think if you just get anything, if one person just gets this, it's okay to be you, your authentic self. And a part of that is having your religion, having tradition.
Yes.
Mental health care, if that's what you need. Whatever it is that's going to make you feel good, that's okay. Okay. And I think you can have it all, but one thing doesn't necessarily mean something else is just horrible. I'm a Christian as well, just like Dr. DeBerry said, but I also cleanse my house with sage as well. It's a tradition that I learned as well from a client, and I love it. It's great for me. But let me tell you, when I need to see that therapist, I go and I reach out. I sure do. And that is all okay.
My message would be to the clinicians: open up your minds and your hearts to accept whoever come into your life as a client. Be willing and able to think outside of the box to help them be a healing person within themselves. It's not about us, it's about the people that we are serving, because we are servant leaders, not a profession of greed.
Right. So, y'all, this has been, week 2. And I'm telling y'all, it's getting better and better every time. So y'all don't want to miss next week, because next week we're going to be talking about secrets in Black households. So y'all, I'm telling y'all, this tea, this tea right here, this one right here.
Don't spill it.
Y'all don't want to miss that. So make sure you join us here on Doc Talk week 3. Thank y'all for joining us so far. Thank y'all for being with us. Stay with it. I promise you, it's just getting better and better. All right. Thank y'all to the panel. Y'all are amazing as always. And we're going to catch y'all next week. All right.